I mean, I started learning English in school, as everyone kind of, but not really learning. I was like just getting it in and then letting it out when I had exams, and that was it. Then I moved to Berlin and I was like, okay, everyone is speaking English and I'm super overwhelmed. And I just started hearing English and I started myself talking all day long when I was dancing in English because we were international in my school. So it was super good for me to like hear and speak it every day. And yeah, that's how I actually learned English. And yeah.
You're actually listening to Pia Schnackenberg sharing a bit of insight into her learning experience with the English language. Today's episode 15 is actually the penultimate episode of season 1 of the English Coach podcast, and the final in the series on the present perfect. I think we can all relate to the pain, or at least the relative discomfort that we sometimes feel when we have to learn something new. The benefit of real examples is clear, and in today's episode, with all its attachments, you get a chance to learn again from the simple success stories of not only one, but two talented individuals talking about the things that worked for them on their learning journey. The attachments to this episode, in the way of links in the show notes, add the icing to the cake, so to speak. Be sure to check them out. Maybe you pick up a thing or two that can also work for you.
Herzlich willkommen zum English Coach Podcast, präsentiert von trainingtree.de, die personalisierte Lösung im Bereich Erwachsenenbildung. Und jetzt dein Gastgeber. Ach, wie er die Sprache spricht. Er liebt einfach, was er tut, ist nur manchmal nicht ganz dicht. Ian-Antonio Patterson.
Well, hello again, everyone, and welcome to the penultimate episode 15 of the English Coach podcast, where I attempt to add a splash of color and life to your learning experience by inviting you to live the language, where learning doesn't have to feel like work, and where I help you to help yourself not only to learn, but also to hold on to the things you've learned. Now, today's episode was self-sponsored and brought to you by none other than yours truly. At any rate, I promised to quickly give a resounding shout out to a few people who were nice enough to declare themselves fans of the English Coach podcast. From all the way over there in Russia, to be exact, Moscow and Rostov-na-Donu. In other words, from Moscow and Rostov-on-Don in Russia. The first and most fabulous interior designer, aspiring illustrator, and passionate learner of English as a second language, Olga. Then there's my friend, photographer, graphic designer, and avid user of Instagram, Tanya. And last but by no means least, mother of 4, dance and fitness enthusiast, Julia. I've also noticed that in Germany, most of my downloads happen in Nordrhein-Westfalen, not in Berlin or Brandenburg, as I would have expected somehow. At any rate, thank you. I'm glad you found something you like, and I'm sure by now you recognize how much feedback means to me. Thanks again to all of you. Keep it coming. And be sure to check out the Instagram links in the show notes for this episode. So now, without further ado, our first guest for the day, Ms. Pia Schnackenberg.
Yes, hello guys. I'm Pia Schnackenberg and I'm actually from the near of Hamburg, from the countryside of Germany. And I moved to Berlin to dance, actually. And now I'm finished since 1 year with my education, and now I'm trying to get this, to get my dancing out of myself to present to other people. So I'm very happy to work today with you, Ian, and thank you.
Okay, thanks for that. All right, well, one of the things that really attracted me to then like wanting to work with you, or one of the things that motivated me to want to work with you, was not only your stage performance for the dance school, what's it called, Balance One?
Yeah, Balance One, right.
I had the opportunity of seeing you in performance once, and that was the first time I thought, yeah, I could probably work with this young lady. And another thing that attracted me or pushed me in the direction was the fact that you're also a trainer yourself, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I'm teaching in Theater and Park. It's like a small dance school with super nice people, and I really like it. And yeah, I'm also giving some fitness courses, of course, to earn my rent, kind of. And yeah, at the moment I'm not doing bigger projects, but that's fine. I'm planning to also move away from Berlin to start something new, but it's super fresh, so yeah. Yes.
Okay, thanks for that, Pia. I think that's fantastic. It's nice that you are able to use something you like, something you love, or you could say a passion that you have, and somehow form it and offer it in a way that allows you also to make some money. I mean, I think everybody should be able to earn a little bit from the thing they love, and I think that's just great. There's not much more I can say to that. What about you?
Yeah, I think it's also great, and I really enjoy giving people kind of myself, and to inspire them in this way, and to make them happy, to feel good, and yeah, I like it.
Fantastic. All right. Well, the reason why we're actually here today is I mentioned to you earlier that that I've been working as a dance photographer for quite a while. It is, I like to describe it sometimes as a hobby that I do in a professional way. And what it means is that for a long time I've been doing this, and one of the reasons for getting into dance photography in the first place is because I wanted to explore my own art. Started with photography first, and then got involved in dance photography. Through working with all the dancers, I noticed that they are all very good at language. They speak lots of languages, Spanish, English, French, Italian, Russian. And my first fascination in terms of language, so to speak, was how exactly they got to that stage. And through the training and through living the art and, practicing and basically doing something you love, they got exposed to different languages, and the learning effect was very strong, whereas it didn't feel like work. And as a trainer, a language trainer myself, I wanted to somehow channel that kind of energy into my own training practice. So for a long time, I've been working with dance photography further, also in the hope of getting a chance to somehow frame that in a way that, more people would understand, and also more people would benefit from that strong learning effect that comes from mixing art and passion with a learning goal. In this case, learning a language. Pia, do you have any thoughts on that? I could ask you, for example, how did you learn your English, and how come, it doesn't have to be through dance, you don't have to say that now because I said that, but do you have any thoughts on that? And two questions, what is your experience with learning language, in this case, English?
I started learning English in school, as everyone kind of, but not really learning. I was like just getting it in and then letting it out when I had exams, and that was it. And I not really, felt like I really learned something after I finished school. So then I moved to Berlin, and I was like, okay, everyone is speaking English and I'm super overwhelmed. And I just started hearing English, and I started myself talking all day long when I was dancing in English, because we were international in my school. So it was super good for me to hear and speak it every day. And yeah, that's how I actually learned English. And yeah.
Cool. So that means you kind of confirm what it is I said then. You also developed your English through living your art. I think that's fantastic. That's great. Yeah? Am I correct?
Yeah, you're correct.
Okay, great. So I think I found the right person then. All right, so as we're sitting in our, my tiny little studio doing this thing, I'm very excited about our project that is coming up. It's an experimental project. And what I would like us to do today is to try to see to what extent we can build an even more solid bridge between, my training practice, English training, and dance. It's experimental because, we are trying this as a collaboration for the first time. This is not something I can do on my own at all, but we want to experiment with the idea of using a particular art form, in this case, dance, approaching the genre of mime or pantomime, which is, all of us have seen these silent films, people dress up in stripes and with white gloves and suspenders and, doing funny things, sometimes slapstick. However, today we are not so much going in the direction of slapstick, but it's experimental in that I will explain to Pia as shortly as I can a grammar rule, and hopefully she will be able to, I know she will, she's a professional, she will be interpreting that grammar rule of sorts with dance. I'm very excited to see how that turns out. I can't wait. Pia?
Yeah, I can't wait also. I mean, I'm super excited right now, but I think we will find it.
Okay, fantastic. All right, here goes. The grammar rule is quite simple. Yeah, I always try to use examples to explain things. And in this case, we can think of maybe, okay, let's say I bought a shirt. Yes, I have used that example before. You see me come into a room and you can obviously see that this shirt is new. Could be shoes as well. Maybe I am standing taller than usual. Maybe I usually wear brown shoes and today I'm wearing black shoes and they look new. So obviously you can see that I bought these shoes or I bought this shirt recently. In this case, you would say, or you would ask, Ian, have you bought a new shirt? Or you would say, Ian, you have bought new shoes. Now that is the present perfect form. In this form, you use, the third form of the verb, yes, which would be bought. And you also see, the typical have or has, right? Have or has is always used in the perfect form. I like the perfect form because it's kind of like a mix of the present and the past, because you use that form to explain something that has an effect on the present time. However, there is something that happened recently in the past that created that effect that you can see now. And that's why I like it, because it's like a mix of tenses. Let's say a mix of times. Yes, it's a mix of the past and the present. In my opinion, it's a very elegant form. Communicates a little bit more. It's richer, it's truer, because, you see something in front of you. It didn't happen now, but it had something in the past that led to it being where it is or doing what it is right now. So, I like it quite a lot. Good. So that was the quick explanation. I wonder if Pia, and I'm sure Pia, you've used the perfect form before, right?
Of course, I try my best, always.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, well, basically that's it. It's just about something starting in the past with a present, or recently in the past with an observable present result, right? And we're gonna try to do that today. All right?
Alrighty.
Okay, good, great. Looking forward. All right, thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoy it. that was Pia for you. Accomplished practicing professional, not only in English as a second language, but also in dance and training. It was a pleasure working with Pia. Sadly, since recording this episode, Pia has, as promised, left Berlin and is now getting her shine on in Bremen. All is not lost. By all accounts, she is happy in Bremen. There's a certain innate, honest purity about art and the act of sharing knowledge. Both of us do very similar things, so I'm sure that she can also relate to that. The pure calling that work in the arts and training represents has kept me going even in the darkest of times, where I felt as though I had essentially lost faith in humanity as a whole. It deserves your support, so I am happy again to invite you to check out Pia's links in the show notes and see what she's doing up there in Bremen. I'm sure she'd be very appreciative of that. Now, I remember when I was studying to become a teacher of English as a second language to adults, one of my course instructors, very interesting and inspiring personality, tried to kill me in class, or so I thought at the time, by requiring me to explain to a live audience, I think it was 6 time forms in 20 minutes. Among these time forms was what has now become one of my all-time favorites, the present perfect. Now, as the story goes, that attempt on my part was successful. The best approach there was to use timelines, stickmen, dots and stars to quickly illustrate the meanings of each form. That experience is luckily in the past, and here I am today still experimenting with other far more interesting tools, together with an albeit small but much more talented team of collaboratives. Stickmen just don't have the moves. Illustrating meaning is what this series on the present perfect is all about. And all, as I said in episode 7, by offering you a different way, so to speak, of possibly finding a simplicity that works for you. In this experiment, we did, on the one hand, actually get a little less abstract with the present perfect aspect by attempting to illustrate the meaning behind it all, by putting it to life and music and movement. On the other hand, we got even more abstract because the experiment attempts to illustrate a grammar concept without words. If you listen to the 2 previous episodes, 12 and 7, you'll know exactly what to look for and will be perfectly capable of finding your own meaning somewhere in between. I invite you to approach this with an open mind in order to get the full value you deserve. Try not to handicap yourself with the burden of pretentious regiment or what you might have been told that learning, teaching, or training methodology is all about. Just take a break from that. It is okay to sometimes see things in another way that only serves to supplement the traditional approach. One thing is true, the ideal learning state is the child state, one of playfulness and curiosity, where we do not have to ask permission to have a little fun. By the very action or interaction-based quality of this exercise, and this whole podcast initiative in fact, you get even more ways to learn from the actions of others. Accept and reject whatever you want, and in so doing, enrich your own learning experience. So again, without further ado, our second guest for today, Lydia. Let me just turn down this microphone. It's a little bit too high. You can look, it's all red. All right, I'm going to turn it down. Yeah. All right. Fantastic. Lydia, it's nice to have you in studio today. Today we're doing something experimental. And, as I mentioned to you earlier, it's all about training. Actually, I am trying to find a new and interesting way to let's say, explain my training or to make my whole the learning experience of my class participants a little richer, right? So I am trying to now use art in an interesting way to make something that is usually seen as boring a little more interesting. So before we start with this improvisation, experimentation, I would like to take the opportunity to just introduce you, so could you please just tell everyone who you are and what you do?
Hi, I'm Lydia, and I'm a dancer, and that's why I know Ian. We did some dance shoots together, and also today we shoot. It was really nice. Yeah, I'm a dancer. That's basically everything I do the whole day. That's who I am. I am what I do.
That's a nice way to say it. I am what I do. Well, the good thing about that is that, you can just change what you do and change who you are. That is fantastic.
Yeah, it is. And I can live my dream now. That's really fantastic.
That's great. That's great. That's great. Well, Lydia, I have known you for quite a while, and it's always fun working with you. It's great. Now I know that, well, you dance professionally. What kind of dance do you do?
I'm doing contemporary dance. That's the main thing I do. I also like doing jazz or ballet, but contemporary is the thing I can do the best and I love the most.
Okay. And that means then, as a, life as a dancer means that you have to do this pretty much every day, right?
Yes, I have to. I'm in training every day, like for some hours, and I love it. It's not like I have to do it. I really like it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. All right, well, since this is all about English, what has been your experience learning the language? How did you learn, and how did you improve?
I learned it at school, of course, for some years, and then I came to Berlin, and there are lots of people speaking English, and also in my dance education, we were a very international group of people, so we are talking most of the time in English, and also I like to watch films in English. Yeah, that's for me the easiest way to learn, like to hear how they use, and not to be in vocabulary learning stuck. like use it and talk to people and listen. That's the thing I love with learning English or other languages.
Okay, fantastic. Oh, so you speak other languages as well?
I spoke French a bit, and in my school time, and I was also sometimes in France. But unfortunately, in the last years, I lost it a bit. Yeah, because I was not using it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you have to use it or lose it, they always say.
I have to go back to France.
That is a good way, or you can, I don't know, maybe you could find, or let's say use art or free time activities somehow to improve the language. And this is actually what I'm trying to offer to my people as well. And, this is something I'm also doing with my photography, getting people to do that. And if you're saying to me then that, through your art, you have gotten the opportunity to practice your English, that is exactly what I want to hear. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Yeah, I don't want to put words into your mouth, but that's what I understood from what you said. All right. So just to make sure, maybe you want to tell us again, Lydia, if somebody is looking for you. I mean, we're going to be doing a nice improvisation video after this that will, hopefully help some people, some of my course participants. If somebody wants to find you, tell us again, where can we find you? Maybe find out what shows you're doing, or maybe a website or Facebook or Instagram. How can we find you?
I'm on Facebook and on Instagram, and it would be very nice if you follow me. My name is Lydia, GRM, in Facebook and Instagram. Yeah, and then you see what I'm doing, and also the shows and photo shootings and stuff. All I do, yeah.
All right, good, fantastic. So I'll make a note of that, and I am sure I'm looking forward to the improvisation after this, and I'm sure people will also be looking out for you. Okay, thank you, Lydia. Now, let's go. Thanks for that, Lydia. Now we've gotten to what I like to call our reflection section. Now, as a reminder, this is where I also give myself permission to dance with the language. I can, of course, take the rather drier, regimental approach to language training too, for anyone who's convinced that that is what they need to make progress. But this is not the place for that. This is where we color our learning experience a bit, by putting a little life to it. As I reflect on this podcast episode, I think about a course participant that I had just this week who absolutely surprised me when he said he learned English for the most part from rap music, pop, and reggae. He is at least the fourth person to have told me that over my entire career as a trainer of English to adults as a second language. An engaged learner from Stuttgart, activated by his real informal interests in life. Interests that he has fruitfully recruited to empower and enrich his own learning experience. What are the things that interest you? What are the things that could or do empower your learning experience outside of class? We all like to talk a lot about the word empowerment these days, but I must admit I have an unusual relationship with that word. The word empowerment can imply that someone else has to give up power so that another can get it. From my experience, nobody and nothing gives up power willingly. So I've chosen to see that in another way. Empowerment in this context means recruiting the tools also in the form of interests and activities that you already have. The tools that already belong to you, like your art and hobbies and all these things that you like to do outside of class. The English language belongs to no one, and if at all to anyone, then to you, simply because you're here. I've learned so many things through the lens of photography. Among these things, I've gotten critical insights into, what we can call the human condition. That's a whole different story. But I want to thank Lydia and Pia for sharing today. It's not easy to take a leap of faith and run with the enthusiasm of who may in fact seem to many people to be a slightly crazy person. My announcer seems to think so. Lydia knows me, but Pia was particularly brave to take the leap. She's a trainer just like me, albeit in her own field. I've had the pleasure of experiencing both of these artists on stage. I was inspired, so I also invite you to be gentle to yourselves and live a little. The engagement of the heart and soul will lessen the sometimes burdensome drudgery of learning a new unfamiliar thing. Again, the language belongs to no one and is for everyone. If you think, for example, that you have a funny accent, don't worry about it too much. Claim what is yours. Do what works for you. If accent is important to you, then I encourage you to check out the book written by my good friend Natalie Claude. I'll put a link in the show notes for this episode again. Still, while we're at it, more importantly, think about your own purpose when you're learning English. And when you're practicing and when you're doing all these things that should help you to develop your language. Think about things like who your clients are, where your clients are, and how they speak. With a small win is always a good way to begin. Okay then, we've come to the end of this, the penultimate episode of Season 1 of the English Coach Podcast. Feel free to check out the show notes for this episode at www.trainingtree.de/podcast. Like it if you like it, and if you don't, lie to me. Just kidding. But still, feel free to share it with a friend, post a rating, or better yet, write a comment. This will help it to help you as it is intended to do. Subscribe only if you feel like, so you know when there's a new episode available. Thanks for listening. Looking forward to hearing from you, and bye for now.